Hey ladies, welcome, welcome. Just gonna let everybody have a couple more minutes to shuffle in. Feel free to say hi in the chat. Hi, good morning. Yay. I assume you can hear me and see the screen and everything. Hello. Just still getting set up here. Hope you're all having a good Saturday so far. Okay. Can you see me? I don't see myself. What's happening? Make sure everything's working. Why can't I see myself? Oh, you can see me? Okay. I want to be able to see myself. Can't have my hair all funky or something. Ah, okay. This is weird. Okay. All right, everybody here? Great, okay. All right, so some of the time I'm just gonna put myself on video and not share the screen, but I will share the screen regularly as well. All right, so let's get started. First of all, let's make sure we're all in the right place. I am Mrs. Leela Thomasone. I'm a leading dating and marriage mentor. I make it easy to find your soulmate and have a strong, happy marriage because I give you the right process to ensure success. So this is a bonus session for my Awaken the Fire in Your Prince students who have had lots of questions on this topic. So I decided to open it up and make it a free preview of that program. It's called Awaken the Fire in Your Prince, which I'm converting it over. It's right now the plan is 6 months of all the comprehensive self-work that you need to make yourself be a great wife, whether you're already married, whether you're single, you're an old cat lady, a college student, never had a date, go on dates every day, regardless, whatever. So if you are a woman who wants a marriage full of attraction and passion and commitment and security, this program can help you achieve that. So are you in the right place? If so, comment hell yes in the chat. Let me know. Are you in the right place? Does that describe you? Comment hell yes. I got to see some live bodies here. Are you a woman who wants, it would help if so this is the name. Yes. So this is the name of today's session, Fear, Safety, and Feminine Fire, How to Stay Safe, Secure, and Feminine While Dating in 2020. And yeah, so I want to see some answers. Okay, Anna says yes, Jen says yes, hell yes. Okay, great. All right, great. Keep it coming in. Anybody else? If you're not in the right place, then there's no point. I want to speak to my audience, which is women who want a marriage full of attraction and passion and commitment and security. So I know there's more of you than just two. If you're shy, then you can message me privately. That's better. But I want you to not be shy in private. Okay, so of course, Christine says, okay, good. Okay, awesome. So good. If we're all in the right place, then I want to do a little grounding and meditation exercise before we get started. I'll turn off my sharing, so it's just me. And if hopefully I want you to practice with me at home, just tune into your breathing, tune into my voice. Notice the loudest sound in the room. Or I'm sorry, the quietest, the softest sound in the room. So I want you to tune into your hearing. What is the softest sound that you can hear in the room? For me, it's, I think, the refrigerator. And pretend that's God whispering to you so that you can really tune into it. Still noticing the breath, but not changing it. Noticing the space behind the eyes, allowing it to relax. Noticing your weight in the chair, just allowing yourself to be completely supported. You don't have to float. Noticing the support of your spine from the inside. Allowing your head, the crown of your head, to reach a bit towards the ceiling, allowing your shoulders to drop a bit. And just setting an intention of awareness. Your body awareness is our intention in this session today. Really tuning into what you feel in your body. Okay, so whenever you're ready, just bring yourself back into the room. Notice anything around you so you feel centered again. Okay, good. So that's important. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Is anyone here new to me and my story? Let me know in the chat. If you and I haven't met over video, if we haven't chatted directly, let me know if you're new to my work. I would appreciate knowing that. To say, I'm new. Is everybody an old hat here? Oh, Jen is new. Okay, hi Jen. Okay, awesome. So we do have some new people. So I wanted to just introduce myself a little bit. Like I said, I've got my students, hi girls, from the program, but also some new people. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on my story and sort of context for why I'm talking about safety, how I know any of what I'm talking about today. I have we're going to talk a lot about boundaries and safety, right? And trusting yourself, how to know when you're safe. And I want you to know what I've been through is, I'm not coming from a Pollyanna place. Like I'm happily married to my husband Derek now, and I'm very, very safe. And um, I am sort of a happy-go-lucky, positive person, right? So that's what you'll see from the outside. But I know. Oh, and Hannah said I'm rather new too. Okay, good. But I know what the other side of that is because I haven't always been this way. This is, a new place on my journey. Where I started from was a very, very bad marriage, a very bad, like, uh, young dating history before that marriage. I got married when I was like 26, but I met him when I was 20, so I was in college. But already, I mean, probably that, already through high school, you've had some dating experiences, probably boyfriends, and um, that doesn't usually go down the right road, but especially not in my case. Um, I did marry the man that I met when I was 20 against all my better judgment, against everyone's better judgment. He was married, he had a kid, he didn't tell me any of that, he lied about his age. So when I talk to you about don't excuse the red flags that come up, I'm talking from a place of experience, okay? I'm talking from a place of I know what it's like to override that and to have to rebuild your intuition from scratch, from the start, okay? So, yeah, and I know it works because now I am safe and I feel safe and protected. My husband takes really, really good care of me. He's very protective. He's very strong and masculine. And that is completely opposite of my first marriage, which, I did everything wrong, was leading completely, just so embarrassing to admit. And that I was the provider. I was constantly, not only during that marriage, but then when I was single, of course, I had to provide for myself and my girls. So, we have this masculine side that comes out when you're single, you're working, maybe even single parenting, like I was. You're going to school, you're trying to get ahead. And that's because that masculine energy is always there to provide structure for you when you need it, but it's exhausting, right? So we would much rather be in our feminine, flowy, easygoing, worthy just as I am, and I don't have to earn it, energy, right? But that masculine energy does step up and it will be there for you whenever you need it. And we do need it. So the feminine side is kind of chaotic and flowy, but we need that masculine container. So if we don't have a protective man, if we didn't grow up with a protective father, if we, haven't been passed off to the right husband to keep us safe, then that's when our own inner masculine side will come up to protect us, right? Does that make sense? So every day when you wake up and you go to work, you're living in a structured way because you need it, because we need it. You brush your teeth every day, probably around the same time every day. That the feminine energy is chaotic, so it needs a strong container to make you feel safe. The same holds true for dating. So, I coach both single and married women, but when we talk about dating, you don't want to go into the wild, messy world of dating without a structure. If you're operating on your whims and just whatever you feel like at the time, you tried that. Probably tried it. I tried it. It didn't go so well for me. How about you? Have you had good success with just like fly by the seat of your pants? I have no rules when it comes to dating. Let me know in the chat. Have you tried it? Have you been there? Tell me. Let's see. What could you say? Give me an LOL if you tried dating in a haphazard way and it didn't work out for you. Give me an LOL. Okay, and while you're doing that, oh, Jen says, I tried it in my last relationship and it's been crashing over and over, LOL. Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to laugh at your pain, but I've been there, and it is kind of funny looking back. So first, let's talk about how to stay in your feminine even while you are in charge of your own safety and keeping yourself from just being overwhelmed with fear out there, right? So that's kind of the two extremes. Either you're just doing whatever, or you might be overwhelmed with fear and not even able to date at all, right? So, because as I teach in my Awaken the Fire in Your Prince program, so these girls, ladies, if you're here, my current students, if you want to comment and let us know that as I teach, the dating skills you need are actually the foundation for a healthy marriage. Have I said that before? Do you know that to be true? Let us know. They are the very same skills you need to practice with your husband once you're married. So you might as well learn them now and get started off on the right foot. Right? Okay, so where were we? I want to talk about staying in your feminine even while you're in charge of your own safety. Right, because ideally we would be protected by our parents growing up, right? And then they would be the ones to hand us over our father. That's why we have that tradition of the fathers handing off their daughter's hand in marriage to the husband, because they're handing over her protection, your protection, right? But that's not how it happens in the modern era. And so you're left to navigate all of this and keep yourself safe. So let me tell you how that has happened in my practice, in my own life and my own marriage. So all of my dating advice that I give is how Derek and I started off our courtship. So I'll be citing some important indicators that will help you stay aware and safe in your own dating journey. So some of those that I talk very frankly about and openly about my marriage to Derek and our courtship in the class. And so my students can tell you that being sensitive to each other's boundaries, never pushing, always accepting that, always having that acceptance that what I want and prefer and need is valid. He never argues against that. We're very, very sensitive to that, right? And you'll see that when you start off, you have to start off with that in dating to have that continue through your marriage. I mean, it's never too late. You can always go back to it. But if you are dating, then you want to start off on the right foot, right? So that's what we'll talk about. And before I go on, I want to let you know that you don't have to take my word for any of this. Before I even embarked on this whole dating journey and meeting my husband, I had read these books by Gavin de Becker. He is a security expert. He's served as consultant and head of security to celebrities, police departments, and the government to assess violence risks and safety threats. You can read in his books, The Gift of Fear and Protecting the Gift, about the truth of what I'm teaching you here. Okay, so now we'll go back to slides. Strong boundaries are your best defense. So this is just so crucial. This is just like point number one, right? This is 101, how to keep yourself safe. Strong boundaries are your best defense. People who want to bowl over your boundaries, for example, they don't take no for an answer, are the ones who will have no compunction about taking advantage of you. What they do is set up a pattern of disregarding your instincts, your feelings, all the red flags, all the things like that I talked about with my ex-husband, all the things I should have heeded all the warnings I should have known and listened to, I overrode. And so what you could say, predators or bad people, or however you want to label it, you know, everyone's kind of capable of violence. Like I don't think that's necessarily a useful thing to like label someone as bad, but I just mean like someone, a man who you could be in a relationship with, you could be dating, or is just somehow in your life who may take advantage of you. That's who I'm referring to, okay? So whenever they see you overriding your instincts or your feelings, whenever they see you allowing them to convince you of something, that's setting up that pattern of disregarding your instincts, your feelings, all the red flags. Okay, that's the muscle that we're going to talk more about that needs to be worked out and strengthened. So I kind of feel like I jumped ahead. I mean, I assume that you're all here because you want to know about fear, safety, and how to stay in your feminine while you're dating, right? So I assume that you've had some experiences like this, that you've overrode some of your red flags. Has that happened? Oops. I'm going to ask it at some point. I just forgot which. Okay. Sorry, I just forgot which slide it was. One second. Okay. But yeah, so my question is, have you ever been in a situation in which your anxiety or your emotionality, your reactivity, or whatever it was, caused you to override red flags or fear signals when you needed to do something to keep yourself safe and you didn't do that thing? Has that ever, I didn't want to like assume you've had those experiences without asking. So let me know in the chat if you've ever had an experience of overriding your instincts and then being taken advantage of and regretting that you didn't defend your boundaries. Let's see, what could you say about that? Tell me, unfortunately, yes, if that's the case. Or fortunately, no. Oh, Anna says yes. Okay. Anybody else? I don't think this class will be very useful to you if this has never happened. If you've always followed your instincts, you're safe. You're gonna be fine. But what happens is that we don't. We disregard our instincts. Yes, Jen said, okay, good. Not good, but at least I know I can help, and that you'll find this information useful. Okay, so what happens is we disregard our feelings and those red flags and those signals where you need to do something to keep yourself safe and you didn't do it. So rejection is not a problem for these men, for these people, okay? But we're just gonna talk about men since we're all women and this is, you know, about dating and everything. And Gavin DeBecker even says in the books, and I have, see, this is the second one, Protecting the Gift is the name of it, that it's just, you know, despite what society wants us to think, or, you know, how we want to say men and women are equal or whatever, it is overwhelmingly going to be men. And that doesn't mean all men, but it means of perpetrators of violence and crime, it's mostly men, right? So I'll just say men for the sake of what we're talking about here. Okay, so intuition is a gift that should be valued and not ignored. So in addition to our masculine side, that is a container for us that can rise up, we also have our feminine intuition, and that is super, super powerful. And protecting the gift is about, so the gift of fear is kind of about protecting yourself, and protecting the gift is more about protecting your children and teenagers. So we all have that like mama bear strength, right? And intuition is just a huge, huge gift that we need to learn how to maximize as women. It's also a muscle, like I said, that must be exercised in order to strengthen it. It will atrophy and hide out in the shadows while you use your rational brain to argue away all those indicators that would keep you safe. Stop yourself if you find yourself reasoning away the details of your intuition. Okay, let me stop and explain that. So, so what happens is that we have, oh, somebody new just arrived. Welcome, come on in. Okay, so what happens is we are aware on some level, okay? We all have it. We're not defective. We all are aware on some level of all of the warning signs and red flags of violence and potentially potential to be, oops, sorry. I can't see my mouse. I don't know why I can't see my mouse. Andrea is just, okay, there we go. No, you're fine. We're good. Where was I? New message. Hi, Andrea. Okay. Okay, so we all have awareness, the ability to be aware of all the signs and signals and red flags. It is, but what we do is use our rationalization, so which is conditioned on us by society, to explain away those warning signs. Okay. So this is very confusing, right? This is why we need to think about these things and do our inner work to tune into the real intuition, the real fear and feelings. And let me tell you what the stages are that we go through. We have doubt, we have suspicion, we have apprehension, we have hesitation, and then the strongest of all, when we get really down to the core of danger, is fear, actual fear. So by not understanding the differences between all of those feelings and those signs that we're picking up on, we get confused and think that our anxiety is actual fear. And so we'll turn down and be suspicious, or we'll be suspect of good people that don't, they're not going to harm us. And we'll put that in the same category. And I just had a session this morning talking about it. We'll put that in the same category as real fear and real danger, right? So that's kind of a problem when you're dating, that if you can't assess whether somebody is actually dangerous or whether you're overreacting. And so that's when we get in the pattern of explaining away, oh, I'm just overreacting. We try to not be inconvenient. We try to not be rude, right? Is any of this sounding familiar? And then we end up overriding our instincts, right? So I'm going to tell you more about how to avoid that problem. But first, for now, just wanted to give you the general rule or guideline that if you find yourself reasoning, so first is tuning into your intuition, but then making sure you're not reasoning away the details of your intuition. Your intuition is a continual process. It's natural. You just have to use it. If there is an element of foreboding, you follow your intuition, okay? You don't reason it away, okay? So that's just sort of the intro to that topic. That's all I wanted to say so far. Are we following? Is this making sense to you so far? Tell me in the chat, or not. Tell me if you're lost. Are we okay? And I'll go on. Okay. If you don't tell me, I'll go on. I'll go on. Makes sense. Okay, good. Thank you, Jen. Okay, so next up, don't be an easy victim. This is the thing that you can do to protect yourself, which doesn't require you to be psychic. It doesn't require you to be completely honed in on your intuition yet. It is just the basic thing that you can do to avoid being victimized is don't be an easy victim, okay? And that is, don't ever demonstrate that willingness to go against your better judgment or override your instincts, okay? I just cannot emphasize this enough. And that's what I mean when I say strong boundaries. If you put something out there that I won't do this thing, so I'll give you some examples. Because this is the alert that they need, that they'll be able to convince you to do things that are not in your best interests. Okay, the minute you override your instincts, you have just communicated to them that you're an easy victim and that you will do things, if they convince you, that are not in your best interests. Okay, so whether that is in a relationship that you will keep coming back after they're violent, or they might ask you to support them financially. So I went through that in my marriage. Or it's actually like moving you to a place of, physical violence and victimizing you. There's plenty of stories in these books which are not meant to scare you, but they are scary. But I think that's great because it helps you tune into, okay, this is real fear. Okay, this is really a dangerous moment, so that you're not lumping those things together, like I was saying, right? Like not lumping anxiety in with real fear. If you know what real fear is, then you know that's different. Okay, so those patterns will start out small and you'll convince yourself to disregard them. Right? Does that happen to you in relationships and dating? You'll convince yourself that it's more important to avoid conflict and avoid being rude than it is to follow through on your gut feelings. It can be any small thing. For example, when I was dating, and I will teach my clients all this as well, that you don't change your plans. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. You don't change your plans with friends or family in order to go out with a man. Okay, that's a rule, right? Does that make sense? So if someone you haven't met yet, or you've only been on a couple of dates, or, I mean, honestly, even if they're your boyfriend, my husband would never ask me to change my plans. And so what I'm saying is, I don't really, this is a good rule regardless. It's a nice, strong boundary and a way to test whether you're kind of having your arm twisted and being manipulated, is that you don't change plans with your friends or family in order to go out with a man. If you already had those plans and then he asks you out, right? So if that's my rule, and even if you swore that you wouldn't do it for someone you didn't know well, but you don't want to be rude and you don't want to be rejected, and you agree to change plans for him anyway, what you've just done is weakened your intuition and overridden your intuition, which is setting you up to be a victim. Does that make sense? Are we following? Someone send me a message? Okay. I'm not good at this. I need to like give you a phrase to tell me that it makes sense. You can say makes sense, doesn't make sense, question. You could, there's like little reactions too. You can use them if you want to. Thumbs up, applause, use those. Let me know, is this making sense so far? Come on, let's be interactive. Do we understand what being an easy victim is? Not being an easy victim. Okay, Anna says it makes sense. Good. Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Okay. All right, so the point is, you can't override your own rules and your own boundaries. You having those strong rules and boundaries, it's kind of that masculine container that I was talking about, to keep yourself safe. Okay, overriding that is what exposes you to being unsafe, right? Okay. So what do you do if you need help? Okay, thumbs up, great, thank you. So what do you do if you need help? Because we don't, I think that's one of those situations where, like, if you say, for example, have a flat tire, or maybe you're stuck somewhere at night, car breaks down, whatever the situation may be, we've all kind of been in something like that, right? Maybe you're at some place when you didn't realize it was closing, somebody drops you off, you can't get a hold of them, whatever the situation might be. You might need help. So in order to not be an easy victim, you have to ask someone for help. Call someone. Don't wait for someone to volunteer themselves. And 99% of the time, the guys who volunteer to help you on the side of the road are good guys. But that 1% of the time, there's going to be the guy who is there to victimize you. Okay, so like, for example, if you're walking in a parking lot with, bags of groceries or whatever, don't allow someone to volunteer himself to you. Ask if you need help. So like, ask in the store, or if there's an employee who wants to walk you out, we've got stores that do that. Allow them, instead of waiting until you're really in a bad spot, right? Then you're, sorry, I'm not explaining this well, but the point is, ask for help and get help early on instead of waiting till you're in a really, really bad spot. Okay? Okay. So, okay. Audrey said, what kind of bad spot? And Jen said, LOL, same for emotional safety. Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Emotional safety, it's important to start out on the right foot and get help sooner than later. Okay, Audrey, what kind of bad spots? So the example was, if you say you're on this, okay, so say you're on the side of the road and you have a flat tire. If you ask for help, you know who's coming. You were the one that chose them. But if you're stubborn and you say, no, I won't ask for help, and you're trying to do it yourself, and then, maybe you hurt your hand or your phone dies or whatever, then you've gotten yourself backed in more into a corner, right? So I'm saying, don't be stubborn and wait to get help, because that's when you're going to be an easier target. If somebody comes to offer help and you say no because you're being stubborn or for whatever reason, and then he insists, and then you let him, you've just proven, do you see the problem with that? You've just proven that you will override your own instincts and your own boundaries, right? Hi, Deborah, welcome. Okay, so we're talking about how to trust your own instincts when you're afraid of getting into bad situations, and how you need to ask for help early on if you need it, because that allows you to choose who helps you. If you allow someone to choose you as the one that needs help, and then you put out a boundary that, no, I don't need that help, and then they talk you into it, then you've just set yourself up as an easy victim, because you are overriding your own boundaries and your own instincts, right? Okay, so this is an important point. When we're thinking about relationships and we're scared of getting into a relationship or dating someone, getting into a relationship, like going out on a date with a bad guy is just a bad date, right? Who cares? And I want you to not care. I want you to be okay with bad dates. But it's the getting yourself invested that's the problem, right? So the bad guys, the addicts, abusers, philanderers, con artists, stalkers, they are not concerned with getting their feelings hurt. Okay, so if you're concerned about hurting their feelings by rejecting them, you're setting yourself up as a victim, as an easy target. You care more about their feelings than they do. What they are concerned about, what their goal is finding a victim who will sustain their habits for as long as possible. Someone who will tolerate them, tolerate their bad habits. And I've had friends go through this where he's not hiding. You don't have to be a detective to find out the bad habits. He's making them very clear because he wants to continue them and he wants you to allow them, right? So when we have trouble trusting, it's not him we need to trust, it's ourselves. If we see the signs, we see the addiction, we see behavior that is just unacceptable, that if you trust yourself, it's like, well, I'm done. There's no question. Why do I need to trust him? I just will leave the relationship if, as soon as I see it, it won't even become a relationship, right? So he's concerned about maintaining those habits, not hiding them from you. Okay, is this making sense? So that's why your trust issues are about your inability to trust yourself, and this intuition that I'm talking about and these strong boundaries that you need to have. Those are your trust issues. Okay, I'll give an example. So I was teaching at a conference and about how so this is why these questions come up, is because, oh, excellent point, Anna says. Good. I'm glad it rings true for you. So you know, I teach that you should be leaned back. You should accept dates. You should be willing to go on bad dates. Like, I'm not telling you to be afraid of men, right? on the contrary, I'm telling you to work on being strong and direct and assertive in yourself. So here's the question. I'm saying you should go out on a date. You should, you know, you should be receptive. You should accept gifts or whatever. Because you want to be a feminine woman. This is, you know, this is the femininity aspect, the feminine fire part of the whole idea and the whole philosophy. So if you're leaned back, if you're accepting and you're receptive, and yeah, maybe you have to go out on some bad dates. It's just a date, right? But the question I got was, you know, oh, but if I allow him to give me a gift, or I allow him to take me out on a date and pay for my dinner, then doesn't he think I owe him something? And that is very much the case with abusers, that they would want, or anyone who would victimize you, that they would set up fast familiarity, that they would set up a condition where you feel like you owe them. Right? So you've heard of love bombing, right? That is a very common manipulative tactic, is to give you and create an obligation in your mind. But what I'm saying is, this is my response to her was, okay, so say he thinks that you owe him another date, or say he thinks that you owe him, you know, an invitation into your home or whatever. That would still require you to walk yourself through those steps, right? So if you don't like a guy, if you don't, you know, he gives you something and you don't want to go out with him, you say no. You don't walk yourself through those steps. There was somewhere I was going with that though. Okay, so yeah, so the point is, yes, they try to set up a premature familiarity and obligation in your mind, and that should be your red flag and your indicator that I don't owe this person anything, and so my strong boundaries are what are going to keep me safe. By not feeling like I owe anything, by not feeling like I need to do anything that's against my intuition, that's what's going to keep me safe, right? So it's not about trusting someone else, it's about trusting yourself. So how, oh, Audrey said, can you give me more examples about setting up fast familiarity? Still not entirely sure. Okay. I'll give you an example. We're all on the internet, right? We're all on social media. And I encourage you to be very, very open to networking, meeting people, accepting friend requests. And I may have mentioned this to you, I don't remember. But I accept friend requests because I trust myself. I know my boundaries. I know I'm not going to give more to someone than I'm comfortable with. I'm not going to send them money and then regret it later, right? But I'll give you an example of setting up fast familiarity. I'll get a friend request from someone in another country, and they'll immediately start calling me their friend. And they'll start asking me very personal questions about my kids, about my work, all this stuff. And I'm just kind of like, the red flag is, all of that stuff is right there on my feed. Why do you need to ask me? You can see on my feed that I have kids and what my occupation is. Why are you asking me over private message? It is because they're setting up that premature familiarity, and by saying good morning every day, and this is like women too. I'm married, so I am not going to private message with a random man unless he's asking, you know, business wise, like for coaching. but like, so this example is a woman actually asking, you know, telling me, calling me her friend and saying good morning to me every morning and saying good night every night. And I'm not your friend. I don't know you. Does that make sense? That's the premature familiarity. So that's how they're going to gain victims, is from people that allow them, women primarily, that allow themselves to feel obligated out of that perceived familiarity, out of that perceived owing. Like they'll tell you their whole life story and then you owe them your life story. But you don't, obviously, right? But it's yourself that you need to trust not to give that. Right? Okay. Oh my goodness. Deborah, all caps. How do you know if people are flirting to date you or just flirting BS? How much do you tell on a date? Okay, two very different questions. Anna says, thanks, I needed these reminders today. Good. I'm so glad. Okay, Deborah, how do you know if people are flirting to date you? Well, they would ask you out on a date. I'm not going to assume anyone wants to date me unless they ask me out on a date. Can we ask questions regarding our husband? Yes. Let me just get to the end here first. And then, yeah, so I think that's answering the question. I think we just have maybe 10 more minutes and then I can answer some questions if that works. Okay. And how much do you tell on a date? That's a good question too. Okay, so just as far as like the boundary between flirting to date and flirting BS is like, it's all the same. And all my advice is the same. It is, don't give more than you're comfortable with, and don't give more, like if you're giving in the expectation that he's going to reciprocate or ask you out or whatever, like that's kind of the same. It's kind of the other side of the coin, where a manipulator is going to volunteer all this information because he wants something from you. The same thing applies to you. Don't flirt because you think there's a potential for a relationship, if you're going to regret it when there's not. Does that make sense? So if you're giving flirting picture, I don't know what you mean by that, maybe pictures or maybe talking sexy or anything like that. If you can ask yourself the question, would I be okay with this if it never went anywhere? And you wouldn't be okay with it, then don't do it. Does that make sense? So if it never gets to a date, would you still be happy with how you communicated, right? And then your question, oh, Deborah says, someone wants to be a friend, they are in a single situation, it's not going anywhere. I'm not sure what that means, but how much do you tell on a date is a good question. Because you should definitely, oh, I explained it, okay, good. So how much should you tell on a date is along the same lines that if any of the information you would be unhappy with sharing if there was never a second date, don't share it. So I think that's a good rule, because then as you get deeper into the relationship, then it's kind of more appropriate to go deeper into how much you share, right? But let him share first. I tell my clients, my girls, he's going to talk a lot because he needs to earn your trust. So just listen, let him talk, because he's giving you a lot of information, and that is your job on the date, is to observe and gather all this information, right? And don't ask questions, because part of what you're learning is what he wants you to know. If he tells you a bunch of things that are like not important and doesn't share important private details, that's good information for you, right? That doesn't mean you should drill him on that important information you want to know, that means you should go, well, he's not really telling me anything that's helping me trust him, right? So then it's still not really a big deal if you want to go on a date. It's just a date, but he's not earned your trust. And that's what you need to keep in the back of your mind, right? Okay. So trusting yourself. I want to give an example of how I learned to trust myself. And thank you, ladies, for hanging in there. I know we're almost to an hour. I don't want to make this go too long, but maybe I need to split it into 2 parts. Okay, so how you learn. Oh, Judy arrived. Okay, so how you learn to trust yourself, or one way to hear that voice in your head, your intuition, and make it louder, is through a practice that I learned in my own therapy, where, so you'll need a partner, you'll need someone to help you with this, where you're just sitting, like wherever you are, in a chair like I am right now, and you can have your eyes closed. You might need to, it depends on how sensitive you are to your intuition, how strong it is already. If it's strong enough, you can close your eyes. If it's not strong enough, you might need to open your eyes. But so test it out. Close your eyes and have someone, a friend or family member or somebody, like kind of start approaching you in the room. And I can feel it in myself, actually, with no one even being here, but just imagining it, that I start noticing my heart rate go up. And remember, I told you at the beginning of this to tune into your body, and that's the important, thing to bring through the session, is how to listen to your body and notice it. And like, my heart's pumping right now, because when you imagine somebody getting closer and closer to you, that should happen. And I want you to listen to it. And that, if you're not hearing it, if it's really vague, if you're kind of like always anxious and you can't tell the difference when there's somebody getting closer to you, then that's when you need to really work on this and strengthen that. So that's an exercise you can do, is notice when you want them to stop. when you notice, like, okay, they're too close. And so you're literally creating a boundary, and that helps you strengthen your trust in yourself and your intuition. Isn't that cool? That was really cool when I learned that. I think that's super neat. Okay. All right, so let's get through a couple more slides. If you want, or if, I need to be more assertive, but I'm questioning how much more to share, because we're already at an hour. So Jen says yes, cool. Okay, good. All right, so we're already at an hour. Audrey says no problem. Go and share. Okay. Okay, I'll just go a little bit. So I want to, Anna says you have to jump on another meeting. That's fine. You're welcome. Okay. So because I'm teaching you this right now, so I want to point this out. So what I just did was I felt that we're at an hour, and that's kind of a long time to go, and I don't want to go too much longer, and maybe we should split it into 2 for that reason. And you guys are saying go ahead. But if I do go ahead, then I've just overridden my own boundary, right? In a way. I mean, it's not that clear cut, but I'm just giving you an example of, listening to what you have, what you want, and what your instinct is, right? Okay, so, but I want to hear from you. I want to go ahead and answer questions, I think. And then I will go ahead and set up a second, part 2. But I hear that you guys have some questions, so I want to go ahead and answer some of those before we go. But before I do that, I just want to close out like my portion of it. Okay, Andrea has a question, so good. I will get that in 1 second, but first I'm going to send you all a link. So this is for more resources for these books that I've told you about by Gavin de Becker. So more resources for you. Please check those out. And I also want you to let me know before you go, if you have something else to go to, or I don't know, maybe she already left, but let me know, choose what is one current relationship goal. Tell me that in the chat and then I'll get to the questions, I promise. Sorry, I'm going to give you your choices. I didn't mean to just throw that out there and then not give you choices. All right, so here's your choices. Just choose one relationship goal. Is it to, Deborah says, be able to feel something more with a new man. Okay, so is it to improve your feminine energy, improve your marriage, have a better dating experience, or one-on-one mentoring? Okay, Christine says feminine energy. Nice. Okay, anybody else? I want you to each choose one. Okay, improve your marriage. Okay, good. Feminine energy. I'm just taking screenshots so I can remember what everybody said. Anyone else? Feminine energy. Okay, good. Help for the beginning of a new relationship. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and answer questions. Okay, so Andrea's question. My mother is a control freak. She was always in my house a lot. Is it possible that this could have emasculated my husband? For sure, if she's a control freak and trying to control things in your home, yeah, I mean, he needs to be the king of his castle. And if you're letting someone else come, oh, that's okay, Judy, don't worry. So if you're letting someone else, and I mean, that's on him too. But it depends like what kind of signals you were sending. So if he was just kind of letting her bowl him over, then, that's not that's not on you. What is on you is whether you told him that you want that, or he shouldn't say anything, or if you got mad if he tried to override her, overrule her, or maintain his status in the home. That makes sense. So I'm curious, why would you let her do that, or why did you let her do that? If you want to share, you definitely don't have to. But that's what's coming up for me. Anybody else have questions you want to talk about? Did I answer that okay? So turns out I only had 2 more slides. So maybe I will go ahead. It just seemed like I had a lot written here. So one thing, yeah, so basically you want to have clear rules for yourself when you're dating and not go over them. And that's what I mean by strong boundaries, right? And that means you don't accept treatment that you don't like. This particular rule is a little bit divergent, but it refers to like stalkers, or like, you know, I've heard a lot of stories of women saying, you know, the exes will hang around, and you know, guys they don't like will keep contacting them even though they've told them not to. And this is a game changer, this piece of advice, this rule. If you don't want to be in contact with someone, then you don't contact them. And it's so simple. But what we do is we'll say, but I just want to, you know, explain to him that, you know, what he's doing is not right. And they continue the dialogue. And or they want to end it on a good note, and they don't want the person to be mad at them or whatever. And so they keep contacting and continuing communication. I hope this doesn't apply to any of you, but let me know if it does. But if there's someone you don't want to be in contact with and you don't want to have a relationship with, and you say, you know, in your mind, I'm done, I don't want this, then stop answering them. Stop having contact with them. I know you can block. You don't necessarily like have to. I think it's stronger to just simply be in yourself and say, I'm not contacting them anymore, even regardless of how they plead or beg or what they say. Like that takes a lot of strength. If you don't have that strength, just block. But if you do, then that will help you increase your trust in yourself. That if someone is contacting you that you don't want, that you want to reject, you reject him, cut off all contact. Like I said, he's not concerned about getting his feelings hurt. He's really not. But what happens when you're wishy-washy and send mixed signals, continuing that contact even when you don't want to, that they will continue to victimize you in any way they can. So, and I've seen this, you know, I have clients and women I talk to who are in abusive relationships, and, you know, fighting back, arguing, being nasty with your words, name calling, being angry, being emotional, telling them their actions are unacceptable, explaining, arguing, teaching them. None of that does anything to change their behavior. The most likely scenario is that nothing you do boundaries-wise will change their behavior, but at least it'll keep you safe. They'll move on and victimize someone else, unfortunately, but all you can do is keep yourself safe. And okay, so I'm getting some comments here. Deborah says, I learned that any contact gives a signal that they are invited back in. Exactly. But when you love someone who you realize is not for you, it's harder to do. Exactly. Yes, it is. And that's why you cut things off early as soon as you get those bad feelings, and don't get yourself invested. There's more to it. And anybody who's familiar with me knows that I advocate that you do not date exclusively, because that's a big part of getting attached, is if you date them exclusively. So maintain non-exclusive dating as long as you can. That's another way to keep yourself safe. Okay. All right. So getting a lot of messages. Let's see what's going on here. Jen says, yeah, it's hard when I'm the one being blocked, and I would him to know, you want him to know you can do better. Audrey said, is it a deal breaker if he disregards your boundaries, or do good men do it too and it's still your job to affirm your boundaries? That's a great question, Audrey. It really depends. Like, it really depends. Because I think you're right. Yes, good men do it too, and it is still your job to affirm your boundaries. But that's why you have to be super, super in tune with how you feel, because if you and I had this happen many times, but specifically when I was dating Derek right before he and I became exclusive, I was dating other people, and this one guy, like, I was trying everything I could to just, give him a chance, and he would disregard certain things, and then, so it's just like at a certain point, it's like, no, I can't. You can't keep doing that. But at the same time, if it's trying to think of an example, I think if he has earned your trust and his place in your life, like if you've really followed all of the advice and the process that I give you, and he's really earned his way into your life, and because early in dating, he should be especially super, super, super sensitive to not disregarding your boundaries and not overriding anything. I was just talking to, I think she's off. She had another appointment, but it was Claudine that, oh shoot, I'm blanking out. What was I going to say? Oh, that at the beginning of dating, he's going to be super, super sensitive to your needs and your wants. And that's a point where he's going to be like, you don't have to worry about saying what you don't want, because just saying what you want, he's going to want to give it to you. And if he doesn't, that's information that this is not the right guy for you, right? So, that is, I think that's helpful information on how to know when is the right time to keep defending boundaries versus he's not rising to the occasion. Yes, it's his attitude, and your instincts will tell you if he overstepped boundaries because he didn't know better, but he wants to learn how to respect your boundaries. Yeah, absolutely. Like the exercise that I just gave with someone coming closer to you and you say stop. It's like if you just said stop and they clearly come further, that's not a matter of not knowing how to respect you, right? But if a week goes by and he comes closer, and maybe he thinks closer is okay now because you've bonded more, and he's earned your trust more, then yeah, he can try to come closer. Does that make sense? So that's probably a more helpful way to gauge that. Okay. All right, so one more all right. Yeah, I just feel like this is too much for me to go through all in one day. Okay, but let's go to this. What are some excuses that you have accepted for allowing subpar treatment? And so let me give some context for that. That you have your standards of how you want to be treated, how you want to feel on dates, and let's say he's like pushing some boundaries. Like, what's an excuse that would make you override that and give him the benefit of the doubt? Is it because he's good looking? Like, think back. Have you ever done that? And why did you do that? Was it because he was good looking, or because maybe he had his career together and he had a lot of money? Or was it because your families were close? That can happen. So that's another kind of example of like creating that obligation, is like if they assume, oh my gosh, and how many times have I heard this, that guys will assume your engagement, your response, like they don't even propose like a ring. I'm talking about engagement for marriage. They will assume it by calling you their fiance and saying you're engaged and telling other people you're engaged when they never asked you to marry them. They never proposed. So that's kind of an extreme example of like assuming that connection and familiarity and creating an obligation in you without you agreeing to it. So anyway, okay, so Deborah says, I felt the connection at the time. So that was your reason for accepting and allowing subpar treatment, was a connection. Thank you, for sure. Anybody else? Doubting that I had the better judgment? Okay. Any of those, like, well, he was really good looking. Have you ever done that? Is it just me? I know it's not just me because I talk to a lot of ladies, but anyone else? Not just you. Okay. Me and my husband got engaged, but he never proposed to me. Instead, I asked him to start planning the wedding. Yeah, so you were kind of leading the relationship there. I mean, not kind of, you were leading the relationship. Yeah, and there's a reason why men do the asking, why women withhold sex until marriage. Like, all these traditions and rules really do have a place and a reason behind them. Yeah, so is this making sense? Does anybody want to come on, ask questions, or what else? Deborah says, he had asked me to marry him, and since it was too soon and he did not tell me enough about his past or present, I asked stuff too late after digging behind his back. This would never happen again. It totally provoked me. Okay. Yeah, so is what can you see how what I'm prescribing would help you avoid abusive situations? Yeah, okay, good. How to maintain feminine energy while engaged. Oh, that's your question, Judy? Why is that an issue? Do you want to come on? We can talk. If you want, we don't have to. But why is that an issue for you? Or, we could talk afterwards. Because you know what, I do want to end here. I think I don't want to go. Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's make it quick.
Unmute.
Hi.
Hey, can you see me?
I can't, but I can hear you.
I'm trying to figure out how to do all of this.
It's all right. Just voice is fine, because sometimes the video makes it slow down.
Oh, it's just a lot going on during the engagement process. And I know a lot of people talk about maintaining feminine energy and stuff while dating. But once you're engaged, that was my question, like, how do you maintain feminine energy while you're engaged?
Because you have all the planning to do, you're saying, and you kind of feel like you're stepping forward and being more masculine in how you're relating with him. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and then it's like you're no longer dating, so I guess the tips that you use while you were dating, you transition into a different phase right now until marriage.
Yeah, so my strategy was just to stay as close to that dating energy as I could. And it's the same kind of thing where you feel like, oh, I don't like how that feels when I act that certain way, or I'm kind of being more like aggressive than I want to be, or I'm taking charge, or I'm being critical of him. And when you feel yourself doing those things, that's how, you need to trust yourself and maintain that boundary and just say, no, I don't do that. I'm not going to be critical. I'm not going to be masculine. I know it's hard to do, but the most you can, the more you can, you know, lean back and stay the way you were when you were dating. And like, I'm putting myself back there. I remember it was hard, but it really pays off if you can stay in that feminine energy. Like, you get so much help. You get so many people, like my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, like people step up to help you. You gotta ask him for help. Like, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? Can you take this over? Like, do that as much as you can. Get him to help you. And I don't mean like the bridezilla way, like you need to do this, this, and this.
Yes.
But like the vulnerable, I can't do it all. I'm exhausted. Please help me. What do I do? That pays off big time. That'll actually bring you guys together ahead of the wedding instead of driving you apart.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's good to see you, or ish. Okay, Andrea says, does it take a long time to heal a marriage when my husband has been emasculated by my controlling mom and my wounded feminine energy? It can change surprisingly quickly, actually. It can turn around really quickly. It just depends on, and I don't want you to feel like there's something wrong with you if you don't move quickly, but it is surprising, like, if you know, the more head on you can confront your wounded feminine energy and really trust yourself, learn these boundaries, and enforce these boundaries, then you'll be really surprised how quickly it turns around. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for joining me, ladies. I've got your screenshots if you told me what your relationship goal is, and I will follow up with you. Hopefully, I should have all your email addresses from the registration. I'll follow up with you and put you on my email list if you're not already. I'm working on some new projects and programs. But let me know if you do want to meet one-on-one. I would be happy to do that with you. And we'll be in touch. Okay? All right. You're welcome, Jen. Bye, ladies. Have a great weekend. You're so welcome, Judy. Bye, girls. You're welcome.